I was born in a very small island of Barbados. Was able to come to a huge country like England. I mean, right now the population of Barbados has grown exponentially since I was a kid, but it's still only 280,000 people. I came to England, and amongst, at that time, a population of over 40 million. I mean, those things did actually happen. Obviously, the Jackman affair caused the test match in Ghana to be cancelled. In actual fact, yes, unfortunately, also on the second day, our assistant manager, Ken Barrington, had a heart attack and passed away. So that had a significant role to play psychologically for all of us. Well, the money part is part of it, but listen, West Indies cricket has been ailing for some 30 years, since 1995, when they lost to Australia. They've really been on a downwards curve. They've really hit rock bottom now, but a lot of things have contributed to that. Obviously, yes, the fact that a shortage of finance, but that is no excuse, because West Indies' greatness was built when they didn't have anything at all. A team that has always looked to the future. They have tremendous reserves, because every year a certain percentage of the money they take in goes into this fund for reserves. For when they have a rainy day, when things are not going right for them, they can still survive. Yeah, so money cannot be, the sole reason. It is a reason in this modern day, but at the same time, I think there are more fundamental reasons why West Indies cricket is in the position that it's in right now. Not just money. They were fighting for a cause. They were fighting to show the white population that we can stand up against you and perform. So there was motivation for West Indian people to try and get themselves up from the mentality of what was there before. If you think to 2023, West Indies cricket started to be on a bit of a curve. It just so happened and coincided at that time where on the selection panel was Desmond Haynes and myself were the two selectors. I mean, he obviously was the last one to do that. I'm pleased to say that, he rose to prominence when I was one of the selectors. Desmond Haynes and myself were the two selectors, and we selected Shamal Joseph for that Australian tour. Since then, really, nobody has made the impact. The best year West Indies have had for 20 years in international cricket, where we won 7 series in that year, 2023. End of 2023, right? We signed off. Our last result as selectors was that 1-1 draw in Australia, where Shamal Joseph performed those heroics, right? After that, they went to the one selector, one coach. That has failed.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. As we had promised to you, this is a very, very special show today. And we have a very, very special guest all the way from London. He's played 3 test matches for England, but he's been the first black cricketer to represent England. And he's born in Barbados and has spent a lot of time in West Indies. And he made his debut incidentally against the West Indies in the 80-81 series. It's my pleasure to welcome on behalf of team Round the Clock Cricket, Mr. Roland Butcher. Hi, Roland, and a big warm welcome to an Indian group.
Yeah, good afternoon, and it's a great pleasure to be on the show.
Thanks, Roland. Firstly, condolences on your dad's passing away. And we now move on to, I'll just explain you briefly. We will divide it into 2 phases. The first phase is the ailing phase of the West Indian cricket. So we'll talk, and you have talked about it with Sayak, I know, last week. So we'll try to find out from you what is ailing with West Indian cricket. And then in the second phase, you will give us the English viewpoint of Ashes, since you also are very closely associated with the counties and English. So we have kept it in two phases. So I'll start off with the mindset questions. We'll move Kunal, then Ayan, and then Sudeep and Amit, and then reverse it. So my question is, this is a question I wanted to ask you. Hadn't you made your debut in that series in 80-81 where Ken Barrington passed away in the middle of the series, if I'm not wrong? And of course, on the Jackman affair, do you think that your career in West Indian in English cricket would have prolonged a bit if that Jackman affair was not and the Ken Barrington death wouldn't have happened,
Well,
or
that's a
is it
very
just a coincidence in that?
well. It's a very good question, and it may well be only be a coincidence. But I mean, those things did actually happen. Obviously, the Jackman affair caused the Test match in Guyana to be cancelled. In actual fact, the game in Guyana probably is where I would have made my debut, but because of the cancellation, it meant that I made my debut in Barbados. Yes, unfortunately, also on the second day, our assistant manager, Ken Barrington, had a heart attack and passed away. So that had a significant role to play psychologically for all of us, you know, for the rest of the series. So in actual fact, that was that would have been the de facto third test match, which meant we had to play two test matches after that. So obviously it was very difficult. In terms of whether that series, impacted my career, well, basically 1981 was the year of tremendous changes for England after that tour in particular. Remember, Ian Botham was captain up to that point. Obviously, during the summer, he was no longer captain. Mike Brearley came in, and then Ian Botham starred against Australia and created the Botham Ashes of 81. So it was lots of changes that took place, and obviously I was one of the casualties.
I think so. It is a rare coincidence I was going through, and I thought I'd ask this one because if that Jackman affair wouldn't have happened, you might have prolonged your career. Just to ask you another very short question before I move to Kunal. Do you think the infrastructure, current infra, and this we have had one show on West Indian cricket already. Do you think the infrastructure and the finances are something which is really pulling down West Indian cricket? The money part.
Well, the money part is part of it, but listen, West Indies cricket has been ailing for some 30 years, since 1995, when they lost to Australia. They've really been on a downwards curve. You know, occasionally you've seen some good performances, but over the last 30 years, things have been bad. You know, they haven't been this bad. I mean, now really, I think they've really hit rock bottom now, but a lot of things have contributed to that. Obviously, yes, the fact that a shortage of finance, is a cause, because if you don't have the finance, you can't invest in proper programs, you can't invest in technology, you can't invest in infrastructure, proper facilities, etc. So, but that is no excuse, because West Indies' greatness was built when they didn't have anything at all. They had even less money. Absolutely. When they became such a powerhouse. But
that's a very good point, actually.
Yeah, so money cannot be, the sole reason. It is a reason in this modern day, but at the same time, I think there are more fundamental reasons why West Indies cricket is in the position that it's in right now, not just money.
So you think that the current crop of youngsters are more interested in American football, futsal, rugby, which we hear from India, that they're interested in other sports. That could be one of the reasons, and the money is flowing there. But they're playing T20. They're playing T20.
Yeah, well, I mean, people say that, but I don't really believe that is true. There are more kids playing cricket in the West Indies than ever before. I think the problems that we have in the West Indies are more structural. Those sports have been there for a long time. The other sports have been there for a long time. But not many people gravitate into those sports professionally, because if you look at American football, most West Indians are too small. If you look at basketball, they're too small. So those are not sports that they're going to get professional contracts in. They play those sports because they enjoy playing them. But, in terms of cricket, I think because West Indies have been performing so badly over the last 30 years, there's a lot of confidence lost in the Caribbean. amongst the older people who find it very hard to watch West Indies cricket. That has trickled down to the youngsters. The youngsters are still playing, but I think the structural problems that we have really stopping the players from developing and developing to the level of international cricketers. We no longer have the support of the English county circuit where most of our players became household names. If you think when West Indies were as strong as they were, all of those players played county cricket, every single one of them. And they were
And
good players.
why is that so? And why is that so, Roland? I'm just cutting you a little bit. Why are they not? A very good point again. Why are they not playing the county? Are they not invited, or what do you think?
Well, the thing over the years, obviously, when those guys were playing in the county championship, West Indies were strong. They had the best players in the world. So the Holdens, the Marshalls, Roberts, Garners, Crofts, Richards, those are top players. So they were engaged by the counties. Now, since '95, where the team really has fallen off, West Indies are no longer pursued. The counties don't want bad players. When you can get,
so that's what I'd like to understand. So they are not pursued.
Yeah. So when you want better, you can get better players from India, from Australia, from South Africa, and also the dynamics has changed now. Before, players would be engaged for a whole English summer. Now, they come in for 3 games, 4 games, some white ball games. So it's much harder now for West Indians to come and develop their game that they used to. And there's also some structural changes in English cricket in terms of club cricket, because since 9/11, it's been very difficult for club cricketers to come into England to play club cricket and develop because of something they have called the managed migration, which was done by the Foreign Office. And that really stops young players from coming into England and playing for clubs. So that has...
So these are inside informations we never had, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's halted development of players. That system has also affected Indians, Australians, Pakistanis, all of those young players who played in the different leagues no longer can do that because of that program.
So it's a vicious circle, basically. One performance dwindling, and it relates to players not being pursued, which happens when you are a great side, everyone's invited. So when you are going down the hill, ECC, the English Cricket County Board, just ignores you guys.
Absolutely. And then on top of that, when you have a very unfair future tours programs at the international level, teams like West Indies, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Zimbabwe, Afghanistan, those teams really struggle because the finances they get are minimal compared to the top 3 of India, England, Australia, who take the bigger parts of the funding. But the Future Tours program, I don't mind those 3 countries getting a bigger slice of the revenue created, but the real problem is in the Future Tours program, where the problem arises is whereby the Future Tours program allows the home team to keep all the revenue. Now, in theory, that is good. But if Australia plays at home, which they'll be playing shortly, they've got 5 test matches with probably a minimum capacity of 50,000 minimum, right? Australia takes all the money. The opposing team gets nothing. Now, if you play in England, that is okay because they've got big crowds. If you play in England, that is big crowds. But when you play in a place like West Indies, where the maximum size stadium is probably Trinidad, and that's about 15,000 people, and they probably charge maybe $5 a ticket.
So finally, my question before I move to Kunal, Roland, do you agree with this tier 2, tier 1 system? West Indies going to tier 2, which Clive Lloyd has said, no, he doesn't agree. That will lead to more or less test matches being played by West Indies because the ICC says that West Indies should not play the tier 1. So what's your take on that?
Well, I think probably going into tier 2 may be the best thing for the West Indies because clearly they cannot hold their own in tier 1. There's a huge gulf between the top teams and the West Indies right now. So that will not improve if you keep playing against them. I think what needs to happen, yes, they need to go into tier 2, play teams that are around their ability, but also still have the ability to play some games against the top teams. that will help them develop their cricket. Also, if the ACC could filter some more funding from Tier 1 into Tier 2 to help those teams develop their infrastructure and everything else, they also would become stronger teams. So I have no difficulty in them going into Tier 2. I think it probably is the best thing for West Indies at this moment in time.
Thank you so much, Roland. I really appreciate your points, and I understand where you come from. We'll again discuss that. Over to Kunal for your question on the West Indian cricket.
Hi, Ronald. Ronald this side, I think, though you answered most of my queries, but still I'll ask this question to you that you've been seeing this West Indian cricket for quite a long time, and you could feel at what juncture you can think that West Indian cricket has missed the bus than the other cricketing giants. It was one of the cricket giants in the world. It ruled the world till late 80s. So, at what juncture?
Well, listen, I think West Indies missed the bus as far back as the 80s, because when they were at their strongest and at their peak, I don't think they really took full advantage of that situation. They took full advantage on the field by beating all the teams. But I don't think they're prepared for a future when there would be famine, where they would have a shortage of quality players. They foolishly at that time believed that it will continue indefinitely. They will always have great players and they'll always be on the top. So for me, the planning was not right back in the 80s. At that point in time, I think West Indies should have been thinking of the future. What happens if in the future we're not as strong as we are? What systems do we need to put in place? What sort of reserves do we need to have? Australia is the perfect example of a team that has always looked to the future. They have tremendous reserves because every year a certain percentage of the money they take in goes into this fund for reserves. For when they have a rainy day, when things are not going right for them, they can still survive. West Indies didn't do that. Planning back then was non-existent, and you're paying the price for that folly right now.
Great. I think I got my answer. Yeah. Over to you, Rahul.
Yeah, thank you so much, Kunal. We'll come back to you. Over to you.
Yeah, so hi, Roland.
Hi.
It's a real pleasure to get you. I mean, I think I really appreciated this view you said. I had actually never thought of this, that you mentioned that one of the reasons that West Indies cricket is ailing is that the stadiums are actually smaller. I mean, 15,000 people only. That is fantastic. I mean, I had never really thought of this earlier ever. So do you think one sort of possibility, I don't know whether it can happen now because finances are limited. But when you said that West Indies missed the bus in the 80s, do you think what one should have done then was actually to build stadiums or something with higher capacity crowds? Do you think those were, that was one of the issues which they did not ponder about at all, which has led to this kind of revenue shortfall?
Well, absolutely. I think back then when West Indies were a power, everybody wanted to play against them. Everybody wanted to see them. Right. That was the time for investment. As you said, if you have bigger stadiums, you would have got bigger support. I mean, people would travel from the US, from Bermuda, all over to come and watch West Indies play because they were doing well and they were the champions. Now, nobody's going to come now because, there's nothing to see. So any investment now in bigger stadia would be a waste of finance. But back then, if they had invested wisely, or thought of capitalizing on their popularity, I don't think West Indies would have been in this problem right now.
Absolutely. So, the next thing that I really wonder about often myself, that issue is a bit philosophical. I mean, in the sense that West Indies, it itself is a very interesting concept, right? You have 13 countries which play under this, banner of the West Indies. And most likely cricket is the only sport where they come together in this manner. So, when it really worked, that time probably, this was one way of representing the voice of the colored people and all. If you read, CLR James Beyond the Boundary and all, you saw that cricket was a form of expression where you really establish the fact that you were the same as the others, as the whites. But now, with globalization and the way things have been sort of more integrated, do you think that concept itself is somewhat diminished, so that younger players do not get the same kind of this desire to prove themselves as probably even in the 80s people felt? Do you think that may be an issue as well, or do you think that's not so much of a point?
I think that's a valid issue and a big issue. Back in the 80s, there was pride in the players representing the West Indies because, as you said, they were fighting for a cause. There was, they were fighting to show the white population that we can stand up against you and perform. So there was motivation for West Indian people to try and get themselves up from from the mentality of what was there before. As time has gone by, as you perhaps become more equal in the international sphere, I think that desire and hunger to really represent West Indies is no longer there. I think it's the point now where a player couldn't care less whether he represents West Indies. If he's making money playing in some T20 franchises and never play a game for the West Indies, he would be happy with that. I think back then, certainly when I was a kid growing up and before, all you ever thought about was playing for the West Indies. You never even thought about getting paid. If you played for the West Indies and you didn't get paid, that was, you had achieved something. That's no longer the case. I don't think you can change it back anymore because the young players are moving in a different direction. But you're right. Back then, there was a cause really to hold the West Indies as a union together. It's no longer there.
So do you think, just continuing from this, do you think that the Windies should really concentrate on one format of the game? So the test cricket thing, as you say, there's no real motivation, there's no real money, and performances have been really bad. So that's like a vicious cycle because you keep on failing and the interest goes. So do you think they should just concentrate on maybe T20 or something? And because they have been world champions there, not too far before. So do you think that's sort of a, very sort of a desperate measure? But is that even a possibility that you concentrate only on the limited version and you sort of, renege on the...
I would hope not, because I'm a test cricket convert. I mean, I love the longer form of the game, and I believe that there is room for the longer form of the game. I watched the 5-test series against England, India this year.
Oh yeah, of course.
That's fantastic. You're going to have an Ashes series coming up shortly. So test cricket can be alive and well. It's probably not alive and well for the West Indies for a number of reasons, and obviously we don't have the players to make it a viable proposition. Would I like them to concentrate on the T20 only? Perhaps not. It would be more beneficial financially, but where would that take you in terms of world cricket? I mean, would the ICC be happy only having a full member side only playing T20 cricket?
Yes,
it probably would be a first. What would the associates say? I mean, we would want T20 status as well. It's something that I don't want to see happen. I really want to see the people at the head of the table, the ICC, try and help the smaller teams to be better at Test cricket, because I think there's a role for Test cricket in the market at the moment.
Fantastic. Thanks a lot, Roland. Yeah, over to you, Roland.
Thank you so much, Arun. Amit, over to you.
Good afternoon, Roland. Amit this side. My question to you is a little different. So, looking back over your journey from Barbados to Middlesex, then to England, what does make you feel most proud of? And also, do you feel England gave you enough opportunities at the international level?
Well, in terms of what made me feel proud is, I think I feel very proud of the fact that, I was born in a very small island of Barbados, was able to come to a huge country like England. I mean, right now, the population of Barbados has grown exponentially since I was a kid, but it's still only 280,000 people. I came to England, and amongst, at that time, a population of over 40 million, I was still able to represent England from that. So that gives me great pride in doing that. It also gives me great pride in that, I spent 20 years of my professional career playing at Lords. I mean, Lord's, as you know, is the home of cricket. You know, to have done that, it should fill you with pride. To have also played for a club like Middlesex, where, you know, during the 80s, 90s, you know, we totally dominated the county game in England. You know, in my time, we won 6 county championships and 6 one-day trophies. So those are the things that has given me, you know, grit. I really enjoyed and believe that, you know, I have achieved, because from where I came, as a boy, you would never ever thought that was possible.
And do you feel that England gave you enough opportunities at the international level?
Well, listen,
Any regrets?
yeah, the only regrets I have is really that the injury that I sustained in 1983. Obviously, I came back from the tour in '81, didn't play particularly well. Obviously, lost my place at that time. But by 1983, you know, I think I was back to my best and even better. Things were going really well. Felt like, you know, I was going to get a recall. Then sustained multiple fractures under the left eye, which impacted my vision. I lost some sight in the left eye, and you know that really caused me to, because if you don't have perfect sight playing at the top level, you know you're going to struggle. So having lost some vision in the left eye, I think that really curtailed the end of my international career. So that, for me, was the saddest part, sustaining that injury.
My another question is that do you see any exciting prospect coming from West Indies off late, apart from Shamar Joseph, whom we highly rate?
Well, oh boy, you have to scratch your head to think of the players that will suddenly step up and take the world by storm. I mean, he obviously was the last one to do that. You know, I'm pleased to say that, you know, he rose to prominence when I was one of the selectors. Desmond Haynes and myself were the 2 selectors, and we selected Shamar Joseph for that Australian tour. Since then, really, nobody has made the impact that he has made. Nobody's either pushing at the moment who has had the opportunity of late. So right now, the answer to that question really is I can't see anybody at the moment who I can definitely say, look, this person within a year will be having the same sort of results and impact that Shamar Joseph has had on international cricket.
And any particular reason you think, like, I mean, why Alzari Joseph, who started off pretty well, has off late gone off the radar?
Well, the thing in Alzari Joseph, in many ways, I feel sorry for Alzari Joseph, because at a very young age, he's had to carry that West Indies attack by himself. He's had not many experienced players around him. I think Kemar Roach is probably the only experienced bowler that he's had around him at the time. So he's had to really be the number one, which is unfortunate for a youngster who's you know, he was learning the game, you know, and he was not the finished article. So he really had to carry that load, and you know, he wanted to play too much. He played too much, and obviously injuries will come in, and you know, so he has not improved as quickly as he would have if he had come into a very good bowling team and had to be just one of the players. But he had to be the number one. Hopefully, you know, he'll come back, because on his day, you know, he's still pretty fast, and but he's still got a lot to learn. We've got a lot to learn.
Thank you, Roland, so much. What do you, Roland?
Yeah. Over to you, Sudeep.
Thank you, Rahul. Good afternoon, Roland. It's
Good
really
afternoon.
nice to have you, you know, in our midst. My question is, you know, this the West Indies cricket is really, you know, has been going through multiple challenges over the last few years. So, what do you think exactly is the West Indies Cricket Board taking is they taking any necessary interventions, you know, to stem this tide, you know, and you know, revive the cricket, you know,
Well, in actual fact, I think some of the decisions that they have made has helped to cause the problems we're in. I think at times they've made some pretty poor decisions. You know, of late, you know, if you think to 2023, West Indies cricket started to be on a bit of a curve. It just so happened and coincided at that time where on the selection panel was Desmond Haynes and myself were the 2 selectors. The coach of the white ball team was Darren Sammy. The coach of the test team was under Kohli. Now, 2023, we had perhaps the best year West Indies have had for 20 years in international cricket, where we won 7 series in that year, 2023. Included beating India at home, beating England at home in the T20, 50 over, winning in South Africa, etc., etc. So you would imagine and think, well, there's an upward curve, things are going well. But then, straight out of the blue, West Indies board decides, well, we want to change everything. We're going to move from having selectors to having one coach who's going to coach all 3 teams. He's going to be the lone selector, and that has proved to be a disaster. Because since then, we've all seen the results of what has happened to West Indies cricket. It's got worse and worse and worse, to the point where West Indies were beaten by Nepal. No disrespect to Nepal, because they're a good emerging side. But with West Indies' history and everything else, they should be able to summon the courage to beat Nepal. Right. They just got beaten by Bangladesh. So since end of 2023, right, we signed off. Our last result as selectors was that 1-1 draw in Australia, where Shamar Joseph performed those heroics. Right. After that, they went to the one selector, one coach. That has failed. There's no question about that. That has failed dismally. So we have also helped ourselves to be in the position that we're in by making some poor decisions. I think another poor decision they have made recently is in the last year and a half, they have increased the prize money for the 4-day cricket from $30,000 US to $250,000 US. You don't have money, but you're going to increase from 30,000 to 250,000. The 50 over competition, they increased that from $20,000 US to $100,000 US. That's only the first prize. Second prize is what? Right. Okay. You fast forward a year later, they say they don't have any money. So what they've done, the next season coming up, they've had to cut the 2 developmental teams from the first class cricket, which is the combined campuses and colleges, which produced the likes of Jason Holder, Robin Paul, all of those guys came through combined campuses and colleges. So they've cut them from the first class team. The academy team, which is the best under 23 players that West Indies have, they've cut that because they don't have the money for them to take part. So I would say that they have also contributed to the position that we're in right now. And can it be reversed? That's a very good question.
Of late, we also find that there has been some kind of an advisory role, for legends of like Reed Richards, Clive Lloyd, Brian Lara. So do you feel that this is going to help, in the long run, this kind of?
Well, listen, talking is fine. How I can't see how that is going to help the players to be motivated to play for West Indies and to play well. I think right now the players are confused because if you've got the coach who is also the selector, for me, it really puts the player in a difficult position because as a player, I should be able to go to my coach and say, Coach, we're playing against India. Next series, I have a problem against spin, against off spinners or whatever. And we should be able to sit and work out a strategy to help me become a better player. But if you are the selector as well, do you think I'm going to go and say that to you? Because when it comes to selection, you're going to say to yourself, Roland doesn't play spin very well, so I'm not going to take him to India. So I think the position that the coach is in right now is an impossible one. It's causing confusion amongst the players. There's also lack of trust that will become, the players will not trust the coach anymore because he's also a selector. And that is also going to impact on the poor performances of the West Indies team.
Thank you so much, Roland. Really good insights as to what is ailing West Indian cricket. What do we understand from outside and what you said are quite different. And thank you so much.